Salutations, greetings, dear viewer. Today we're going to be starting something very new. This is not in the Bible. We are going to be translating Vergil's first Ecloga, which up until actually looking into doing this, I always thought was Ecloga, kind of like epilogue, but yeah, completely wrong. Go figure. So here is our rubric, everything that we're looking for as we go through this text. You'll note that I've added in deponent and the actual form of passage that I use. At some point when I'm near a printer again, I will replace this with updated form. Now you'll also note that I've got a page number on this. This is so that I have an easier time of keeping track of what page goes in what order when we go through and review, as it is not set up the same way as the Bible is set up, where we've got definite verses. We've got line numbers for this, but most books only put the line number every fifth line as we have here, and sometimes it's hard to keep track of, especially if it bleeds over. So there's that. Let's go ahead and get started with reading it. Meli boios, titere, tu patulai recuban sob tegimene fagi. Silvestrum tenui musam meditaris avena. Nos patriae fines et dulcia linquimus arva. Nos patriam fugimus. Tu, titere, lentos in umbra formosam resonare doces amarilida silvos. And I think we're going to probably, at least this first one and maybe the next, I don't know how long, I'm just going to do them in entire pages. That's not going to cover always everything that each of the characters in the Ecloga say, as some of them will bleed over. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, but about a page is what I'm going to cover. And here we have Meliboeus speaking. So our first speaker here is Meliboeus, as I just said, and his name comes from Greek, and I'm not going to write down the entire phrase, though I might put it in a note at the bottom of the screen. It means something along the lines of like a herdsman or one who cares for the cattle. So we've got meli, which it means it is a care, and then boy is like Boeotia, the land of cows. So guy who cares for cows. And then titere, our first word here, note that we have this E. This E tells us that this is actually a vocative form, because our herdsman is talking to titerus. So that's vocative, singular, and masculine. And then, of course, in English, we just write it with the US. And this one, it is at least according to the commentary that I have, it is a word that's related to satyr. So we might say a layabout, because that's what a lot of the satyrs were. As for what the actual word means specifically, I wasn't able to determine. It's possible that it has something to do with a field, but I don't know. If I'm able to find anything more when going through and editing this, there will be another note. Let's move on. Tu, we've seen this in other videos before. This is from tu tibitete. It is the second person singular and then subject form, so nominative singular, the second person. You, and this is almost certainly unnecessary, which means we've got an emphatic here, especially since it's appearing at the very beginning. Titerus, you, blah, 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 blah. Patuli, that's not our verb. Recubans, there we have our in S of the present active participle. This could be nominative singular, or it could be accusative singular neuter. We've got tu as our subject, and tu is masculine, since titerus is masculine. We know that this has to be nominative, singular, and then masculine. And this present tense, off of the present stem, is active, and I almost wrote indicative, participial, sub tegmine, fagi. So I don't see a verb. I suppose then that this is, oh my gosh, brain blank. Ugh. We don't see a verb, or a main verb that is, so we just have to treat this, the recubans, as the official, stumbling over my words today, as the in effect main verb of this sentence. And I don't know, I might treat it as a relative clause, but we'll see once we get through the rest of the words. So patuli. Patuli here could be genitive, singular, dative, singular. Can't be nominative, plural. We've already got our nominative, and it's an adjective. Looking beyond, we have sub, prepositional phrase there. That's the wrong case to be part of that, but fagi is not. Fagi is a genitive or a nominative plural. Again, we can't have the nominative plural, so this is genitive, singular, and it's actually a feminine word. It's one of those rare second declension feminine. So patuli is the same form and is modifying fagi. And patula, this is a strange word, and I'm not sure exactly what to do it, but it means something along the lines of open or standing open. And then fagi is a beech tree, or I guess a fagus, or is it? Might not be fagus. Most likely is though. So an open beech tree. Okay, and it has to own something. It's probably not going to own out of the next line, since this is this poetry? No, I don't remember. I wasn't able to find anything just skimming through the commentary about meter, if this has meter. So that's another thing that I'll add in the notes once I actually have a clear idea of that, and I might go through scanning it if necessary. But for now, just treating it as prose. So this ends our prepositional phrase here. And now I must ask myself, is this accusative or ablative? That E could be an accusative. It could also be an ablative. That is hard to tell. So this word, its alternate spelling is actually with an I or a U here. So tegumen, or tegumene. And I think this would be tegumen with an E instead of the I, and then tegumenes with an IS, the third declension. So then a accusative would have an E instead of this I and no E here. Therefore, this, I believe, is ablative. Especially because of the meaning of this. This is not in motion. So an ablative with sub makes more sense than an accusative with sub. An accusative with a sub would show us motion, sometimes anyway. So plus ablative, and this is singular and neuter, and this is under cover. Probably say under the cover of open beech tree. You, recubans, lying back or reclining. So then trying that as a relative clause. Tityrus, you, who are lying back or reclining under the cover of an open beech tree. And that's Sylvestrum tenui. Tenui is a first person singular, and that is a perfect tense. So with that as our main verb, it doesn't make much sense for us to treat this as a relative clause, especially since we've got two outside of the clause. We need a verb with that. So I think I'm not going to translate this as relative, just leave it as a normal participle. You lying back under the cover of an open beech tree. And then we might assume an intended word like while, though we don't see it. Tenui, I hold, I preserve. Sylvestrum. Sylvestrum is an adjective. We've got em right there, so we know it is accusative. It's singular. And it could be masculine, feminine, or neuter. But looking around, unless it is modifying muse, there's no gender for it. It means wooded or covered in trees. I don't need to write that down. So wooded something. Musam, wooded muse. I suppose that does work. Then we take a look at meditaris, and then otters here we have is a second person singular. And this is from meditor, and I'm not remembering now. I'm looking at my notes, which I wrote about 4 weeks ago, and that was the last time I was able to record. Meditaris. So we have second person singular, and it's a present tense. It could be a passive indicative, and then my notes for some reason say active subjunctive. I would assume that the only reason it could be active subjunctive is if this is a deponent verb, but I don't remember the form. That's yet another opportunity for a note. Put it in there. Maybe it'll be meditor. But anyway, second singular. So now we get to to's action. And it is definitely present tense. Looks passive in form, but I believe it has an active meaning, so I'm going to treat it as a deponent. Possibly wrong there, so a red question mark above that. And then it could be subjunctive or indicative. So let's take a look at it in its context. We have avena. Avena here has that short, or has that A without anything after it. Avena is a feminine noun, and it is singular. So we need to figure out the case. We know that Tityrus is masculine, and there's no word linking him to Avena, so it doesn't make sense for him to be linked to that. Therefore, ablative, I think, is the best option. This might be ablative. Well, this would be ablative of instrument based on what it means, because an Avena is a reed stick, it's a straw, or it is a reed pipe. Or just reed. So with I preserved, wooded, muse maybe, you meditate with a reed pipe. Sylvestrum can go with musum. Meditaris doesn't really need a direct object, so I think Sylvestrum with musum makes some sense here. So, wooded, muse, I preserve, or I held, preserved, or I held, you meditate with a reed pipe. So you've got Meliboeus, however you pronounce that. He's working, and Tityrus is playing around. And this is probably going on forever. Let me check the time. Yikes. But a few minutes of that was me looking around for stuff. All right, let's move on quickly. Nos, we've seen that before in other things. This is from nos, noster, nobis, nos, nobis. So this could be nominative plural or accusative plural. Taking a look ahead, linquimus, we have mus there as our ending, so nos is going to be nominative plural. We, emphatic, patriae, finis, patriae, could be nominative plural. No, we're masculine, so it shouldn't. So genitive or dative singular. Linquimus means leave or forsake, so that's first, plural. And what tense? Could be present or perfect. Linquo, linquere, linqui. Without a proper scan for this, if it were in poetry, I wouldn't be able to tell for sure which of the two, so present or perfect. Active and indicative. So he's got perfect action there, but Tityrus has present action here. It might follow that he has perfect action again, but let's see from the context. So we leave, we ourselves, because of the emphasis with nos, leave or forsake. We need to forsake a direct object. Note we've got the conjunction right there connecting finis and dulcia. Dulcia could be a nominative to singular, except for the nominative we already have, so it must be an accusative plural neuter with arva. Since dulcia, yeah, but dulcus, dulce, dulca, it's a third declension anyway, so there's no option of it being nominative singular. Sorry about that. That goes clearly with this. And sweet, and like lands, regions, countries, and then finis, you know, the es there, which is going to be a accusative plural. And finis. Ooh. Yet again, I don't know the gender. Except my notes do. Masculine. And then that makes patriae, since this doesn't want a dative, patriae is going to be genitive singular. Masculine. We ourselves leave the boundaries of homeland, or better, fatherland, and I'm going to move this over here. Sweet. I want to say fields. Yeah, fields does work, I guess. But let's go with sweet plowed. And then that ends that clause. Okay, move on. And now I want to bring your attention to a nos again. See here how we have, let's find it, two, nos, nos, and they get two again. Commentary calls this a chiasm. We start with titterus, and then we move to the speaker, and then the speaker again, and then back out to titterus. I don't really understand the chiastic structures very well, but so you are aware. This is apparently a chiastic structure here with two, A, B, B, A, just so you know. So we, emphatic again, we patrian fugimus, fugo, fugere, yeah, fugi, same problem as this one. I'm just going to pull that parsing down. And then patriam is of course the same as that, except this time accusative. We flee, or fled, fatherland. Two, but you titterus, this is the vocative again. Lentus in umbra. Lentus, this is a great word here. So it has 6 meanings that I got, that I found, and half of them just don't work. So you got tough, eutiterus, tough one. Eutiterus, supple one. Oh, okay. Eutiterus, pliant. Supple, pliant, yeah, that works. They're related anyway. You resistant. Okay, so that goes with tough. You slow. Or you apathetic. So I'm going to go with apathetic for the translation of lentus, which is of course nominative, singular, and masculine, because we see him here. He's meditating with his reed pipe while Meliboeus, he's the one who's suffering through losing his home, albeit he is in effect a slave, probably legally a slave. So lentus, you, titris, yourself, because of the emphasis, umbra, in plus short a, long a, ablative, singular, feminine. You yourself in shadow or in the shade. Which makes a lot more sense because of the beech tree. Formosam, accusative singular, that's not a verb. Resonare, we've got the re of an infinitive, still not a verb. Doces, es right there from dokeo, docere. So those two go together. Second singular present tense, off of the present stem, is active and indicative. And it occurs to me, we didn't figure out the indicative or subjunctive for that thing. I don't see cause for a subjunctive clause, a hortatory, addressive, or anything like that. So indicative is probable for that. But anyway, you, yourself, apathetic, in the shade, doces, and move the translation over here, teach, extra line. And we need a direct object. That could be a direct object. However, this is at least similar in its function to a verb of saying, perceiving, or thinking, and those types of words, this one included, can introduce a indirect statement. Now, pretty weird to find docase in the middle of an indirect statement if it is in fact an indirect statement. Another way that we could look at this is just a, I think it's objective infinitive is what it's called. That we have amarilida, and that A right there is actually accusative, not Latin. This is from Greek, and forgetting probably third declension for that. And I think in the Greek the L's are actually S's, but accusative, singular, feminine, Greek. And this is, her name here means the sparkling one, I think. Amarulis, baby. That might be the adjective. Commentary says, again, maybe I'll put it in the notes. So, teach, and just leave her name as is. Or but not just the sparkling one. Formosum is singular, but silvas is plural. So formosum must be modifying amarilida, especially since there's nothing in here for it to modify, nor a verb there to be the object thereof. So pull this over here, and then we get beautiful. Or beautifully formed is another way of translating this. This one specifically is physical beauty as opposed to pulcher, pulchra, pulchrum, which doesn't have to mean physical. So formosa is used primarily of earthy things, animals and people included, but physical, whereas pulcher is not necessarily limited to that. So we have beautiful amarilida, or the beautiful sparkling one. Now, as nice as this name is, the connotations throughout Greek literature that it has probably should preclude it from being a name of anyone's daughter. But I don't know. Amarilida is, I think, pretty common in poetry. I'm pretty sure that's what the commentary said, so just caution there. So, she's the direct object. You yourself teach her. Resonare, present, active, infinitive of the first conjugation, because of that either, to echo or resound. And then the last thing we need to figure out is silvas. We already know AS, accusative plural, and it is feminine. But what is its function? To sing forests? Well, that doesn't make much sense. So what's another meaning that the accusative has? Well, there's this phrase that I learned years ago, the first time that I tried to learn Latin, and I think I actually learned it from somebody who was doing Greek at the time. Oh, I don't remember now, but anyway, the phrase is duration of time and extent of space is always in accusative case. Extent of space here works well because we've got echoing throughout the forest, to the extent of the forest. And so ends line 5 of Vergil's Eclogues, our poor lament of Meliboeus, who is being kicked off of his land because I think this would be Julius Caesar et al. Giving away the land of the farmers to pay off the soldiers that fought for them. So, poor guy. And then I think next time that we come back to Vergil's Eclogue, it will be Tityrus responding. Thank you very much for joining me. Have a good life.
What? You're still awake? Why are you still here then? You should be reading a book. Or if not reading, you should watch one of these other videos. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. See you next week.